Hey, well, today I'm angry at the ACLU, and it really saddens me to be angry at this organization because I've supported them for decades, but they seem to have gone badly askew in recent years. Now, if you look at the history of the ACLU, they were formed about 100 years ago. They originally were formed in response to what were called the Palmer Raids, where the US was attempting to arrest and deport communist sympathizers. And the ACLU was formed to defend those people. They also stepped up in the Second World War about 80 years ago when Japanese American citizens, I will point out, were rounded up in a center and sent to detainment camps. The ACLU was there, and the ACLU had always been there over the successive years when issues of civil liberties, when issues of public speaking, when issues of free expression came up. The ACLU has gone badly astray in recent years because even though their original intention was to help minorities, the fact is minorities these days have plenty of voices. The majority, the silent majority, has no voice at all. Nobody speaks up for the silent majority. Let's not mention white males, God forbid. They're entitled to no rights whatsoever. The ACLU should be completely colorblind, should be completely gender blind, should be in favor of everybody's civil rights. They are not. They are focused on the civil rights of what they consider to be marginalized communities and not society at large. I haven't heard anything from them in recent months about these issues of free speech, whether people can complain about the government without being considered a domestic terrorist, whether people can complain about the police without being labeled as nihilists or worse. Interestingly enough, the ACLU does release their financial information, and I just today reviewed their Form 990. This is the Form 990. This is the form that all organizations that are exempt from income tax have to file every year. And I'm going to show you some detail on this form, and you can form your own impression about how important the work of this American Civil Liberties Union is, or whether they are purely a fundraising organization today. These are the details from the Form 990, and I'll draw your attention just to the column on the right. You can look at the column on the left, obviously, as a comparison, but this shows the year 2020, and just running you through it very quickly, it shows that they raised $138 million in contributions and grants, and along with investment income, other revenues, they had total revenue for the year 2020 of $140 million. However, they paid almost $30 million in salaries, which you can see on line 15. That doesn't even count the professional fundraising fees of $500,000 and total fundraising expenses additionally of an additional $5.5 million. And if you move down to line 19, you can see that in spite of the fact that they raised $138 million for the year, after paying almost $30 million in salaries, they lost $4 million. Now, this is an organization whose mission ostensibly is to protect our civil liberties. And I don't know if you're aware of what our civil liberties are, but they certainly include the right to free speech. The ACLU, in fact, was infamous or famous, depending on your perspective, in defending the right of Nazis to march in a small town many years ago. And even people who were vehemently anti-Nazi were enthusiastic about the ACLU's a commitment to the cause, the fact that even for unpopular causes, they were willing to stand up for the rights of those unpopular causes to have their voices heard. I would remind you that there is no reason that popular speech needs protection. It is only unpopular speech that needs protection. And unfortunately, for people who are not in favor of hearing speech that they don't like, the First Amendment in the US gives us all the right to express unpopular speech. The ACLU has strayed so far from this path. They are looking only at what about the trans people? What about gay people's right to marriage? What about black people? There is no mention of all of us. There's no mention about the issues that unite us. These are all issues that divide us. The American Civil Liberties Union should be representing us on the big issues. They should be protecting free speech. They should be protecting us from unreasonable searches and seizures. They should be in court protecting our rights. They are not. They are protecting the rights of a few now. Now, I'll grant you that the few are often unpopular minorities, whoever the unpopular minority of the day might be, But the ACLU's mission should be to protect us all from the encroachments of authorities, not only to focus on the issues of the day in order to increase their fundraising efforts. I no longer support the ACLU. I don't think that the ACLU represents my interests. I don't think the ACLU represents the majority of people's interests. I look at the ACLU today purely as a fundraising organization. I don't see any impact from their statements in recent months. We need them now more than ever. They are completely and totally absent. And unfortunately, although I miss their influence, I don't think they serve any valid purpose today whatsoever. And even though they ostensibly represent the interests of us all, they no longer even pretend to. They are a small insular group. They parrot the popular positions of the day. You no longer hear them speaking on the unpopular points. I don't think the ACLU today would represent Nazis who marched through a small American town, and therefore they no longer have my support. I suggest that you take a good look at the ACLU yourself and wake up.